Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Because it is going down. This is it. The legendary Nerd O Roundtable here to break down, yes, the Suicide Squad. We all saw it. We got thoughts on it. But first, unpopular opinion. I just finished reading Heroes in Crisis from DC. And I got to say, that whole entire run sucked. Everything about that comic run sucked. And I know a lot of people thought, oh my God, this is reinventing the hero mythos. It's showing that heroes are real people too. That shit was whack. Now, another maybe not so popular opinion. I thought Suicide Squad was really good. I thought it was one of the better summer movies, considering that we did not have a lot of summer movies.
Well,
joining me today to break it down on today's round table, I see Tom is talking Cunningham. What is up with you, good sir?
I am doing great. I'm glad I was able to watch The Suicide Squad on my HBO Max stream.
Word up. Dr. Liz from the freeway. What's up with you, good girl?
Everything's well. And, and The Suicide Squad is the opposite of good. It was tolerable.
Oh, shit.
And I saw it in Dolby because I just wanted to get out the house.
Damn. There it is. Twitch Master Ryan McBain. How you doing?
What's popping, y'all? I will say that The Suicide Squad was the goods. I liked it. Not great, but good.
Nice. And joining us, I see Anthony from Two Cubicles Down. How you feeling, brother?
Good. Just got out of the theater. Literally had to rush home to get on. Swear to God, it was a 4:00 screening. Just got home.
I love it. So you got a fresh take.
Yeah.
All right.
Literally fresh out of the theater.
Fresh. Now, Tom, you who know the Suicide Squad story back and forth, you know, all the characters involved, Amanda Waller on down. As a longtime comic collector, how did this film do in comparison to David Ayer's introduction of the Suicide Squad, which I will have to say, if you don't see the first Suicide Squad film, this film makes little to no sense. That film does serve as a prequel, if only because this second film, they just rush into it. Let's go. You're going to go on this mission and die. The first film at least introduces you to what the Suicide Squad is for those who don't know. For those who don't know, Thomas, just film fans.
Well, okay. So I will say this. I don't agree with that for this one reason. There's been an animated, a high production value animated DC Suicide Squad movie outside of the original feature. And Amanda Waller, because we're introduced in this film by opening with Savant, Amanda Waller goes through the whole, we're implanting a bomb in your head and you've got to do this and save 10 years off your sentence. It wasn't as elaborate as what Ayers had to do. But I venture to say that, you know, since that movie made $750 million, a lot of the people who are watching this movie probably watched that movie. And honestly, all you need to know is you guys are bad guys. She put a bomb in your head, going ahead. Because literally in the first 5 minutes, spoiler, again, we did not say it, but you're watching the show. And so you know this is how it goes. Lots of spoilers here. In the first 5 minutes, there were 22 damn DC characters. So you knew we weren't going to be following all of them. So in the first 5 minutes of the movie, you've killed a bunch of the other people, and then you understand that they were literally cannon fodder. They were there to allow the other team to infiltrate. And so I didn't think you needed to know any more about them than that, just like we didn't need to know anything about Slipknot, whose head got blown off in the first movie for doing nothing.
It's like they got rid of the old Suicide Squad, brought in the new Suicide Squad, and then the next movie will get rid of this Suicide Squad and bring in a new one.
Well, I mean, more on that later, because, you know, they replaced the Will Smith Deadshot character with a Bloodsport character who was also black and dealt with munitions. Now, what they didn't explain from the comic books is that Bloodsport could literally materialize a whole like weapons cache of weapons. They
I
kind of
like-
made it different with this, which was fine.
I like how with Bloodshot, it was the relationship
Deadshot.
Deadshot. The relationship with his daughter
Right.
was, I don't want you down this path. And with Bloodsport, it was,
You ain't shit.
yeah, what are you getting cuffed for?
Yeah,
How come we didn't have a watch?
right.
No one was watching your back. It's like two complete opposites in parenting, but a similar character.
But two black men with a daughter in jeopardy.
Exactly.
So, I mean, they did kind of follow it. They definitely made Amanda Waller a lot more bloodthirsty. But what they did, you didn't think she was more bloodthirsty?
I wanted her to kill everybody in the room at the end of this film, like she did in the first Suicide Squad.
She was trying to.
I wanted her off at every single one of those persons.
But one of the things that I actually liked, and let me just say this. This is a much better movie than Suicide Squad.
Well, that's fair.
It's much better, but that's not saying a whole lot. Let's be clear. But one of the things that you could definitely see James Gunn's imprint on this is that it wasn't the Suicide Squad as a group of D-listers and then just Waller. Waller had her own D-listers, and I thought that was a very good choice because in the first movie, it was just like everybody who was working with Waller was just a government automaton who didn't have any agency of their own. And in this movie, that was different. You had people questioning her. You had people questioning behind the scenes. You saw these human people who were working with a bunch of people who die all the time, making bets on who was going to live and who was going to die. And I thought all of that really worked. This was definitely James Gunn for sure. And James Gunn, you know, with Guardians of the Galaxy, you had a bunch of people nobody knew anything about, and he turned that into two heaping piles of gold. And so with here, you had a whole bunch of people nobody knows about except for Harley Quinn, and it mostly works. Sylvester Stallone as Groot, you know, that was fine. You had
Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel. Yes,
Sylvester Stallone was the Groot character. He was King Shark.
The Groot character.
Yeah, he was the Groot of the group, the ignorant guy.
The brute. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So, and then you had Dalmatian as the Polka Dot Man with a different power set, but a very sympathetic character. You had Ratcatcher, which I was surprisingly engaged with. I didn't know what I was going to expect from her, but that worked.
Hilarious.
Did you see who played her father?
Yes, it was Taika Waititi, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things that was really cool about this is that unlike the first movie where, and I understand now in retrospect that it was not David Ayer's decision to do that. They kind of reshot and redid a couple of things to make the tone lighter, where they did these high energy animated flashy graphic overlay introductions of all of the characters, whereas in Gunn he was allowed to pace it out, and you saw a little bit of Ratcatcher, then you saw more of Ratcatcher's backstory, and you saw a little bit of the Dalmatian stuff with Polka Dot Man, and then you got some more texture to that, and you got a little insight into Bloodsport, and you got a little more insight into Bloodsport. We didn't need Rick Flag because Rick Flag was already a thing, but some of the characters like Katana didn't die at the end of Suicide Squad, right?
No.
You got Captain Boomerang, but Captain Boomerang is dispatched. That's fine. But it was just weird how they chose to do that. And of course, there's a major reveal in the third act about certain characters that I wouldn't have thought were going to die, but they ended up dead. So except for one, because if you don't stay, you got to stay for the after credit scene, people. Don't walk out of the theater. You know, sit on that train.
Don't turn off your HBO Max app.
Well, don't go to the bathroom to take a shit.
I absolutely was like, do I care? After a while, I absolutely didn't care about any of the characters, and I got to the point where I was openly laughing at. I mean, I at least I will say this: it's a fun one-time watch.
Yes,
at least you're going to laugh and enjoy the laughter. I personally think that the reason why I laughed so hard, and in my theater, nobody laughed between the starfish fighting and the rats, but I laughed hardest, and people looked at me strange because it reminded me of Elvira when on Saturday nights,
Elvira, huh?
Yes, it did. Because on
Okay.
Saturday nights, I'd sit and watch Elvira at night, and she'd sit there and reveal our movie of the week. And it would be this haunting movie, quote unquote, but it was like The Revenge of the Rotten Tomatoes or The Blob. And I was like, this reminds me of the mere stupidity of it's enjoyable. You cannot be scared of tomatoes. You and I can't take starfish seriously.
Well,
I mean,
Starro the Conqueror, to just to make sure that
He's
it's known,
powerful.
Starro the
Yeah,
Conqueror.
he's
I
a
mean,
bad boy.
the fact that they underpowered that character the way that they did. I mean, this is a character who literally took the entirety of the Justice League and the
yes.
JSA and damn near everybody else to stop this world-ending threat. I like how they broke him down and just made it something that they could contain on that item. Because like when they first said that Starro was going to be in this, I was like, so you have to bring Superman or someone else
Superman,
in because
Somebody.
Starro is that powerful of a being. This is a world-ending threat that they dispatch in a rather funny way. I mean,
Yes.
the rats eating them up was like, oh god, that's hilarious.
I will say this: if you want someone to bring in a bunch of characters at once into your movie universe, James Gunn is the man.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy to do that.
no, that's fair.
In the last movie, they had all these backstories for all these characters, and then it seemed like, okay, their backstory. We're not really going to talk about them or really develop them as much. You should already care. In this movie, very little backstory or flashbacks, except when it was needed. And throughout the movie, I was more and more interested in every character. I was laughing. I was laughing my ass off. It was just ridiculous fun. Yes, was it stupid? Yes, but I laughed my ass off, and I was entertained.
He dripped out their
when
backstory.
this dude says no one likes a show off, and my man responds, unless what you're showing off is when you're doing dope shit. Like,
Dude,
my
man,
man
John
was like,
Cena
yeah, that's
was
true.
sleeping in
That's
some
true.
white
John
undies.
Cena was fucking
hilarious.
hilarious.
No,
That was the funniest.
I was like,
That was
wow.
the funniest. That was the funniest sequence of the whole movie when they walked into that counter Sandinista whatever
And
camp.
they start killing everybody.
And they just started killing everybody. That was hilarious. And my son, I was watching it with Thomas. My son was laughing. Kathy was laughing. And just their back and forth between Bloodsport and Peacekeeper or Peacemaker, whatever his name was. That was to me the meat of this. You had King Shark biting people and ripping people in half and the rat catcher. The thing that I think James Gunn did very well, and he did the same thing in the first Guardians movie. The character's name is Ratcatcher. She has a shiny ball, right? Ratcatcher too. She has a shiny ball that makes rats do stuff, and it's disgusting.
Yes.
But you cared about her because he did just enough of her backstory and just enough of her being a sensitive daughter relating to her drug-addicted father to make you say, wow, unlike Slipknot, this is a character I know nothing about, but I actually care about.
Yeah.
And he did a very, very good job of that. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of this film. The third act, I didn't understand why the Thinker was a necessary character. He looked good on the poster.
Wanted someone to look funny, and they wanted someone else to dispatch. Like, hey, let's throw in someone else to dispatch in a really, really
gross
horrible way. He's the proxy for all that's wrong with America and taking advantage and trying to hold a mirror up to America's face. And it's like, you need a ridiculous villain like that. He was just that cannon fodder villain that was like, oh, you're gonna die, and you're gonna die horribly. Just can't wait to see when it happens.
Okay, I'm gonna make some space for a critique. All of the surviving characters that died by the end of this movie were a direct, with the exception of Polka Dot Man, were a direct consequence of Amanda Waller not wanting the hard drive to get out.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. By the time ScarJo escaped and represented an existential threat to the
Doesn't matter.
entire world,
Yeah.
Yep.
how is it that she was just like, well, they're no longer an American ally, so it's fine? Girl, you didn't think nothing was
Well,
going to
no.
come out about the giant kaiju starfish?
Well, no.
that was taking over
What
the
she was
entire
hoping
world?
is that ScarJo would just kill everyone on that damn island, and chances are they could just nuke that shit and still deny
That's what I was waiting
any
for.
involvement. Like for her, it was like,
guess,
look, I
yeah.
don't care. Everyone that was involved is dead. I don't
Well,
care if ScarJo gets out. They're
she
not
even
friends of
said
ours.
She even said it. We got the hard drive. ScarJo's out. And mission's over. You accomplished your mission. You got the hard drive.
I
Book it.
understand that's what she said. I guess it's just before we found out, before the Thinker told us that because it was a U.S. spaceship, the U.S. parked it here, and the governing family of Corto Maltese was allowing them to do whatever. The first thought that popped into my head was, how is anybody supposed to believe that this huge extraterrestrial threat was just being housed unassisted on this backwater, Cuba proxy? It defied my belief just as a moviegoer who enjoys movies and who's watching it. So I'm just thinking, if in this world of this movie, the conspiracy theorists would have had a field day with that. It's like, how possibly was this? The U.S. involvement would have been unleashed. Is all I'm saying.
My thinking was, where was the giant water tank they were keeping it in that tower?
Wow.
Right.
It was a tower. Was it like?
Well,
surrounded?
here's the thing. The water.
I don't know.
ScarJo wasn't in that. ScarJo was
under
in
the
the
water.
sub basement. It was the big aquarium with the piranha jellyfish that were in the thing, and I guess that was just because the Nazis liked aquaria. I don't know.
I would tell you
There were
the biggest thing for me, and I agree with the positives that he said, but the biggest thing for me is Harley Quinn stole the movie. I still think that she came out, especially even in the last scene, or in the last act, where they're making this the whole conversation is, who is the
Milton.
guy, who's Milton?
Oh yeah.
And she's just like, you mean, I know I have seen, I would have known if I'd known that there's a Milton there, and this, I still think like she became the star of the show. Clearly, this is the reason why she has her own movie, or had her own movie. They should make a sequel if they haven't decided to do so.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah.
It was the lowest performing DCEU film.
And I mean, she is out there actively campaigning for a an Ivy film. She wants to do like something like what they did on the animated series. She'd like to do something live with that and explore that, but even from her own mouth, she's like, hey, look, so far nothing's been green lit. And remember, she produced the first one. She produced the Harley Quinn film. So if she's saying as the producer of that Warner Brothers hasn't green lit that's almost like a hint and a half that they're saying, yeah, we're okay. But one of the main things that I was looking for from this film was to see if this was the film that was going to actually make HBO Max worth it. And still, even though I enjoyed it, it's not. This app has not made it. It's not worth it so far. So far, I'm like, yo, dude, I haven't got my real money's worth from the things that they promised. I did not download the app for their groundbreaking series. That's not why I got the app. I could have kept HBO. I could have kept HBO for their series, because the series were already on HBO. They said HBO Max was going to give us these big movies that you can't get anywhere else, and that's why you have to get it. Otherwise, we could have had HBO Max, or what was the second one they did? HBO Secondary. So that's where the series were. HBO Max was supposed to be, we're giving you all of the movies, and so far every movie has fallen just below like excellent. This was a good movie to me. This is a movie that showed James Gunn's.
It wouldn't have mattered how good this movie is. It's in a broken universe. It wouldn't matter how
exactly
the movie was.
That's there. But you have to also remember that HBO did the dumbest of the dumbest. They rotated
Charge.
their DC films. So there are moments where they'd be like, oh, Aquaman's on. Aquaman's
Oh yeah,
not
and
on
then it's
right
not
now.
on. Yeah.
You know,
King Kong is
Batman.
back. I'm like, why did King Kong leave? Like, why would you take that away? If that's your biggest film to date financially, I didn't know it was gone, but I got an email telling me it's back, and I'm like, why would you take that off HBO Max?
But
Like,
they
well,
didn't
so-
even-
but
they
You can
didn't
keep it
even-
off.
And you know
Well-
what? Before King Kong versus Godzilla, they didn't even keep all of the Kong and the Godzillas before the movie dropped. When
True.
they did the redo
Bad move.
of when they did the redo of the not the James Gunn, but you know the you guys help me out.
The reboot of what?
Yeah,
No,
which reboot?
the Snyder Cut. When they did the
Oh.
Snyder
Justice
Cut,
League.
they didn't even keep all the Justice League movies
No,
to
but
lead up
this
to
is
it.
but this is what
on
they
the
were
app.
doing. This was their strategy, guys. You get 30 days free. So you can only run these
Right.
movie premieres in 30-day slots because you've got to no, seriously,
true.
because you've got to
And then you
create
don't
the
go to
account
the
and then you've
movies.
got to delete the account and then you got to create the new account. What they're hoping for is that people who didn't have HBO like me, I am on HBO Max because I like having the HBO content and I like not having to have HBO on cable. So for
Right.
me, it was a trade-off. And so I get to watch all the streaming films because I'm paying for it. I'm not paying a premium like Disney. This is the thing that absolutely confounds me. You're making it day and date without a premium. So
Yep.
you're disincentivizing people to even go to the theater to see something that's supposed to be your splashiest,
true.
best entry in a way that at least Disney said, well, you got to pay $30 if you want to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah, but Tom,
If you can just sit on your ass and not do anything except pop a $2 bag of Orville Redenbacher, why wouldn't you do that?
But Tom, what I'm saying that didn't make sense is that if you're going to lead up to the show, then you should have the stuff that led up to the show on the app.
Oh,
Like,
I don't disagree.
That Justice League, how do you not have Aquaman on? I'm not saying Aquaman is good by far. I'm not even putting that out there. But I'm saying that you should have had Batman versus Superman.
Yes.
You should have had
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
Hey,
All of that should have been
Liz,
there.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Suicide Squad on the app? Is the first one
Sometimes.
I
even
think
on
it is
there?
now.
Sometimes.
I'm glad you brought that up because it makes sense for DC because their whole fucking universe doesn't make sense. So it makes, in a weird way, I understand.
Makes
It's
sense.
all fucking whack. The whole universe is broken.
Yeah.
And
And
Godzilla. They did that to the Godzillas. They took down Godzilla before
And the King Kong. Yeah.
Kong and Godzilla came out.
Yeah.
Why would you take down Godzilla?
Both
Why?
both Suicide Squad, the original live action movie, and Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, the vastly
animated.
superior animated movie, are available on HBO Max.
And so far, the top of those is Hell to Pay. Hell to Pay is
Oh
still
no, that's
the
a
best
movie
entry.
though.
Yeah.
That's a real movie. And again, it gets back to and just so that we're clear, Justice League and Snyder Cut are on there, and then all of the animated Justice League movies. Which again, if you want a DCEU,
Yes.
you might as well build it off the animated stuff because at least that
Mhm.
makes
Pretty
sense
much.
because it's the only thing that makes sense. To me, what they are never going to get right, what they don't even have an opportunity to get right, because unfortunately, the Suicide Squad, which is a vastly superior entry and a true testament to James Gunn's abilities as a writer and a director, is that it's going to be a catastrophe financially because of COVID, and only because of COVID. It's going to be an absolute
Oh, they only
bloodbath.
made $8 million.
yeah. No, it's horrible.
Wait, you said they made how much, Liz?
No,
Eight.
it,
Yes,
well,
they
so
did.
far the weekend,
So
the
far,
weekend's
the
not
weekend's
done though.
not here, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but if
8.1
you're
They're
starting
projecting
off with
30.
8,
Yeah.
if you're starting off with 8, that's a low
Well,
20 on Monday.
That's 8 off of Thursday. So they don't have Friday numbers yet because we're on Friday. So that was
Okay.
8 million on Thursday isn't horrible. But those are going to be rolled into Friday's numbers. So Friday's numbers are going to be artificially inflated.
But now, so
But
here's the
it's
thing
not
about
a
something
great
coming
kickoff.
out on Thursday like this: word of mouth will likely detract people from going to theaters and opting instead for the free HBO Max viewing.
Well, that's what I think.
There's that factor that I think word of mouth on a Thursday going into a Friday can really make people say, nah, I'm not doing Dolby dollars for this one. I'm a sit at home.
I will say that Dolby, no, the storyline, it's just not my cup of tea. But I will say seeing it in Dolby is, I enjoy how, the chairs are shaking. Like, so it did add more to the movie. I still am not a fan of the movie. But
you just want to get out.
I did want to get out, but it did add more to the movie. So I'm not going to dispute that.
One thing about this movie, and one thing that is definitely going to, HBO Max or Warner Brothers, the DCEU is committed to building off of this film because the Peacemaker series that James Gunn directed does come directly out of this, and that is still that's already shot. It's already shot.
Before this movie, I was not interested. Now I am. And back to this movie, the first 15 minutes of the movie sets the tone for this, how ridiculous it is. All right, I mean, Harley Quinn was great. King Shark was great. John Cena was great. Idris Elba, and that fucking rat made me laugh. When they're in that camp, and that lady goes, "Why is that rat waving at me?" I lost it. I lost it.
Is that really? Yeah,
that rat waving at me?
You know what? James Gunn excels at movies where he's not beholden to the burden of the legacy of marquee characters.
That's true.
He can do exactly what he wants with these characters, and so it allows him the creative freedom to be gonzo and wacky and amazing. Some people have compared this to Deadpool in terms of its R-rated content.
Yeah, it was R-rated.
Oh, it was a hard R.
I am bad mother of the year because I totally forgot that it was going to be R. Mother of the year, and I was like,
yeah, no, it's a lot.
Earmuffs.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a lot of what made this movie awesome. I didn't know that there was a Peacemaker series in the can. So it makes sense that if you were going to launch what could be a successful venture on HBO Max with your first DCEU cinematically tied series, a la Loki, a la Falcon, a la WandaVision. I don't know that I would have chosen John Cena, but out of these characters in this movie, John Cena really is the only one you could have possibly chosen.
Yeah. You get a comic book.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one question that's been kind of bothering me. At the end, during the end of the movie, when Bloodsport is falling from floor to floor to floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nah, bro.
No. That bothered you?
No.
That's what you're complaining about?
Look,
that was the thing, huh?
I wanted him to say the line on Black Superman.
That I was like, nah, man. That's just
Look, I mean, by the time that happened, it's I'm just in it for the ride. I'm like, what, this is just a fun popcorn movie, and those are things that James Gunn excelled at, which to me is more of a knock against all of the other directors that the DC universe has brought to the table, which shows a creative director given any material can make a good film. It shows that Zack Snyder, he really doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. His film was terrible by comparison. And Gunn had a far less budget. His budget was a lot smaller. He had a lot less star power, and he turned out a simpler, easy to follow film that you didn't have to go, but wait, why are they doing this? You know why they're doing it. They're told to go do it or die.
I think Gunn had a lot of things over his head, though.
Hilarious.
Wait, hold on.
Why this works is because it's just it's not serious. Like, it is a tongue-in-cheek. Don't take me serious.
I think certain parts, yes. At certain parts, most definitely.
I want to give a shout out to the folks who are watching on Mo's page. Mo could not be with us tonight, but we have a couple of people who have made some comments. Ersdale Jerome Lassane says, I'll watch it today, but I'm keeping my expectations low. It's bad enough that I don't have any interest in the characters. That is certainly fair. Giovanni Trujillo says, the big bad boss takedown at the end was disgusting. Let's talk about that for a second. I have to say that I was glad that the javelin was paid off.
Yeah.
Flula
They
was
made
the actor.
they made a bit. Who was that?
It was Flula.
Oh, Flula.
Yes,
Is
he's a
Is
he's
it
a
Flula
German actor.
Kuti or whoever?
Yeah,
his
German actor.
only name is Flula?
It's Flula Kuti, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
Hilarious actor.
and the javelin and the fact that the javelin was used at that facility that was named for the German opera thing and all of that. I thought that was very poetic. Folks, if you thought you were never going to see a movie where 1 billion rats eat an eyeball, this is your movie, because you will definitely be surprised. It was very gross. If
you have that many rats
super
where you
gross.
live, that's something wrong.
Bro.
What kind of
That's
island
New
country
York.
has that many rats?
That many rats, bro?
Corto Maltese.
That many rats?
Bro, the rat population was up in Corto Maltese like it was the Bronx. Like
they were like
we ran this
roaches.
town. I mean,
I thought of that too, Wally. Like in the movie, I was like, rats or roaches? Which one is? Which
no,
one?
the
would
rats
there
are
be
definitely
more?
rats are definitely worse. They are definitely worse because rats are intelligent and rats have claws and
Carry
rats.
disease.
Oh man, and the tails are disgusting.
When
They
they
got
went
little
in there and
backpacks.
ate that eye, I was like,
Oh,
get that
bro.
eye, get it,
Oh,
eat it, eat that thing to death.
The eyeball.
Because I was
grossed
really,
me
and you know what's really funny is how they even tried their, James Gunn. He really almost tried to make it like, hey, dude, look, Starro didn't want to be here. Starro is lashing out so he's like, dude, is Starro really the bad guy? Well, yeah, now he's killing people, but still, Starro didn't want to be here.
But the last thing that Starro he does, he says, I was happy. I was looking amidst the stars. And so you make one of the most heinous, and I said this in the text thread, Starro in Young Justice controlled the entire Justice League.
Yep.
They used Starro technology to completely mind control Vandal Savage, who is still a boss big bad that the DCEU hasn't even pretended that they were going to try to deal with. But he controlled the entire Justice League, and Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hawkman, and the Martian Man, eventually even Martian Manhunter, had no defense.
None.
He absolutely controlled them and ruthlessly used their powers. And they're lucky they were on a depressed island nation with no one with any real skills, because honestly, Starro is that dude.
It could have been bad for them. And
instead, it was the Blob.
No, and look, and the strange thing about DC is, they've got this never say die attitude, because news just dropped today that the crew who produced Justice League, they have gone on record and said that a Justice League 2 is on the table. It's not in the works. It's not in production. They say that it's probably a number of years away, but they are going to go back and do another film. They've already contractually got everyone.
If you got good writers, like a James Gunn on it, a good director on it, then maybe they can pull it off.
But James Gunn is coming back for Guardians 3. James Gunn is going to be in the House of Ideas again. Yeah. Unless you're talking about 8 years from now when it's a hard reboot, Cavill is not going to be. You're not going to hold on to Affleck and the star. Jason Momoa is going to be.
They're talking about like at least 3 years. They're talking about like maybe starting production on this late 2022.
Whatever.
So I mean hey, look, at least James Gunn has shown that it's not necessarily the product. The DC product is not what's bad. It's been the people behind the movies who've given us shit films. Like Anthony just said, you give us some good folks. You give someone an opportunity to just do them and make a good ass movie who actually likes these movies. I don't know if Zack Snyder is actually a fan of the superhero genre up here. I think he just does stuff and he likes it because it allows him to be stylistic and crafty and all this weird stuff that he does. But you put the right people behind something, behind really anything, it can work. Also, from the DC universe, tangentially somewhat connected, I finished Masters of the Universe, and I know I may be out here on my own. I finally got to the end of it. I wasn't mad. I don't know what everyone was hating.
You are not on your own,
weird.
bro.
It
You're
was
not
okay.
on your own.
It's not the,
I was
the worst
I
one.
could not understand. And again, I wasn't the biggest He-Man fan as a kid. I watched it because it was what was on after school.
Right.
But this was really, and it was obvious to me by there only being 5 episodes. This was a feature that was broken into 5 acts. This was not like 30 minutes and then next week we're rebooting with a different, the same story recycled for another 30 minutes, and then we're rebooting and the same story for another 30 minutes.
Right.
It was one story broken up into 5 chunks. And yes, it wasn't He-Man centered, but the show wasn't called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It was Masters of the Universe, and there were a bunch of characters. Man-at-Arms came off like a G. I don't know about the rest of y'all. Man-at-Arms was the G of this whole series.
I agree with you, and I must credit that Tom made the funniest comment on Facebook saying, I am not 11. Looking for a major reboot to a cartoon. But I will say that the promotion for this was all He-Man centered. And it was so you're led to believe,
but I don't know, Liz.
Was supposed to be,
but there was He-Man in every episode, though. There really was He-Man in every episode.
And not only that, like for me, the biggest draw in the marketing and promotion of this was the voice talent led by Mark Hamill.
Absolutely.
A lot of what Netflix was leading with was Mark Hamill is returning to animation with Skeletor, which I thought he did a great Skeletor. And I think the turn with Skeletor was like, oh shit, I never saw that coming. Like him getting the sword, him getting the power. I was like, oh man, you're killing me right now.
And out of all of those, how many hundreds of episodes of He-Man and She-Ra and whatever, there was never a time when Skeletor won. That was the equivalent of on Thundercats having old boy actually triumph like he did. He kind of triumphed in the actual legitimate reboot of Thundercats, which was unmercifully short. That was a really good follow-up to the original Thundercats. Superior animation, great storytelling, all of
Brandon
that.
Easton was on that. That was great.
That was really great. The Thundercats Ho, or whatever the hell that little animated Teen Titans Go BS was, that was nothing. But when you have the big villain who has literally always lost throughout the history of the entire franchise come and pull a 180 reverse G move like that, and just to hear him say the words, I have the power.
Look, I was kind of shook. I was like, you're telling me Skeletor won?
That was epic.
I'll tell you what surprised the hell out of me. Not killing He-Man once, they killed that motherfucker twice.
Well, but he's not dead.
He's not dead. You did shank him.
Kevin Smith did say he's alive.
Well, but you know what's even more interesting is that now also something that I thought they weren't going to deal with, that was going to be brushed under the table or forgot about or whatever, but now everyone knows that Adam is He-Man. That's something else that they really flipped the table on. It's like, yo, the secret's out there. This dude is He-Man, and everyone knows.
And how about this? How about through the entire history? How the entire history of the original series, nobody figured that out? That was worse than Clark Kent.
No,
it was the same Page Boy, and he was all muscled. At least in this, it was a legitimate transfer. It was like Billy Batson and Shazam. I can understand why Tila was salty. If he looked like He-Man, except he had clothes on, and you were that dim to not realize it, that's on you, Tila.
Right. But
Tila was salty as hell.
She was. That is what you're upset about?
Even when he came back, even she saw him in the afterlife, she was like, I still ain't fucking with you. Like that was like, yo, homegirl, let it go. Like, man, she was like,
a hero, man. You still mad about that?
Right, for real.
That's what you're mad
petty
about?
as fuck.
I love the fact that they went to the originals too, with when they had all of those original characters that if you file like the comic books or even some of the further story where how you have all those cats. I thought that was dope, and even King Grayskull, having him as the brother in there. I was like, I thought that was dope.
They definitely, I think they just like She-Ra. I think both of the series cared about the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know why folks are shitting on
No,
Kevin
They're
Smith.
mad because they wanted to have more He-Man. That's why they're mad.
Yeah, because these incels wanted to see the heavily muscled dude in mink draws.
That's what they wanted.
That's what they're upset
Really
about.
short,
Man, man.
really short draw.
What if they do?
Coochie cutter mink
What's wrong with that?
draws.
What if they want to
Molded.
see that? Are you the
Oiled
Borg
up.
Tom? Are you the
Or
Borg?
maybe,
Well-
maybe
you-
they don't musky because he takes a shower maybe only when he sees dirt.
Yeah, well,
Oils.
Hey, look, they're living in Eternia. They can get away
was
with
a
that.
deep- Oh, and that's one thing I liked, how you had Eternia and Preternia and Subternia. And
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Evil
Was
Lynn.
this something that they really established in the original cartoon, that Eternia was the center of the universe?
No, that was new, right?
Right.
That was
I was
new.
like, I didn't know. I thought Eternia was
Yeah,
just some
I don't
invented
remember that.
planet that they made up, and now they really they raised the stakes.
And it also
Yeah.
contradicts She-Ra. I know that Tawala, I know there's no connection.
Right.
But what if they
saying-
connected though, Liz? What if now
But I'm saying
that they're doing this, what if they do?
But I'm saying that in She-Ra, Eternia is not the center of the universe.
Right.
Well, we would have to kind of reshift this story a bit.
All I know is that Kevin Smith is taking a ton of heat because the stunted, never grew past puberty, basement dwelling troglodytes are all like,
Doing
I
their
need
mama's
more
house.
fuzzy draws, and I don't know why there's not more He-Man in here. And I'm in my feelings because Evelyn and Tila got too much screen time. And it's like, bro, it's called nuance. It's called a real story for adults. This was not about selling toys. This was about telling a story, raising the stakes. You blew up magic in the most important planet of the universe in episode 1. You blew up
planet
magic
that exists with magic.
And then by episode 5, you brought Adam back, had him shanked with the Voldemort Horcrux thing that Evelyn was carrying the whole time, and Skeletor wins. Do you understand how huge that is and how that actually drives a dramatic story in a way that instead of what you got every day after school was, like Adam said, you guys, it's a bad thing when a guy with 3 eyes tries to make fun of you. So don't let him blast you with his third eye laser, because that's never going to work for you.
And it
See you
wasn't like
tomorrow.
And it wasn't like they ruined He-Man at all. He's still He-Man.
He's still He-Man.
The character wasn't ruined like a certain character in a Star Wars movie that I'm not talking about.
With you in the Dark trilogy of Ryan Johnson. My God.
Motherfucker, right.
Hey, real quick, because we haven't had a chance to really discuss it here. I know Mo and I kind of got into it earlier in the week or last week maybe.
Talk about another ruined character.
About really Scarlett Johansson. And now I think in this most recent story that I saw today, I think that this actually sums it up. And it's what I believe it is. No knock against Scarlett Johansson, but Disney is saying that after everything that they've looked at, after all the emails and after all this, that this is nothing more than a highly orchestrated PR stunt by Scarlett Johansson's team. And they've roped her into it. And I'm like, yeah, like you killed her off. And I'm like, where is she going now?
Yeah, but I also saw that, I mean, this is turning into a hashtag Me Too movement. And I said this before, this is spinning into pay inequality and treatment of women in the industry is not as equal to men. And,
I got that.
And it seems like there is, within the industry, there is a drawing of the swords. You either are for women or you're against us. And if you're not going to pay, I still, at the end of the day, and I know that you all disagree with me because I got upset with y'all in the group chat and I was like, I ain't responding to y'all. At the end of the day, Kevin Feige is going to negotiate this and he's going to turn to Disney because Kevin Feige has not spoken out against her. And he actually roundabout said, y'all need that there does need to be a renegotiation of this contract.
He was
Maybe
embarrassed,
not
yeah.
for Scarlett, but per se in the future, there needs to be a renegotiation here. And I think that's what will happen anyway. We know this for a fact. And I bought that $8 million up about this really bad DC movie that y'all like.
It was
Is the biggest movie that has happened this year has been Black Widow.
No,
And
no,
Marvel,
it's not.
Well, domestically,
it's
it's barely
yeah.
over F9, and worldwide, it's well behind. It's more than $300 million behind F9.
Marvel is still carrying, and the ones that it carried movies last year before, the snap that we're all living in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's carrying. Marvel's going to carry this year. And Disney, name me a better Disney movie that came out this year.
Well, the problem
right now,
the problem with that theory, Liz, the problem with that theory and the problem with Scarlett Johansson making this type of stink and then people trying to turn it into women's equality and more women is that Disney and Marvel, studios has stepped up and has put women in behind the camera as far as directing. There are 2 films that women are directing. There are at least 7 films that are starring female.
No, here's the problem though. It's actually not pay equity because she is not the lowest paid actor in the MCU.
She's not. But I'm telling you that this is what this is running out to be.
But here's the problem though. Wait, hold on, because I let you roll with that for a second. The problem is Chris Evans made $1 million for his first Captain America movie. Okay, the issue with this is not her pay; it's with the back end points that she may or may not get. $20 million is not bad for any actor.
Robert Downey Jr. got what, $500,000 for his first Iron Man?
For his
Terrence Howard got paid more than he did.
Yeah, he did.
And Robert Downey Jr. was the star.
No, you cannot.
Because
the brand of Marvel is different now than when the brand of Marvel
absolutely
was
is.
when it
But
came out.
And Scarlett Johansson's contribution to the Marvel brand, because she had never had a solo film, and she still got $20 million. She still got a premier priced payday plus points. Now, it's unfortunate that the pandemic damaged her points. And apparently there is a discussion about whether or not she gets a percentage of the D+. I don't think anybody's arguing that she is due a portion of the D+ stuff. But I don't think this really is a pay equity thing. As I said in our group thread, there are more than a dozen actors, female actors, who are getting either their own series or who are being deployed and elevated in the Marvel universe. Scarlett Johansson on a character who is dead in the Marvel universe is not the talking point.
I want to know what is,
if Robert Downey Jr. isn't coming back for real, I'm not talking about a flashback or anything else for 2 minutes of screen time. Scarlett Johansson isn't coming back because they have 742 widows. And then, yes, we do. There's a Taskmaster and there's 742 widows. She's not coming back
you
as
want to
Black
put
Widow.
some
She's
crow
not
on that list?
Please
put some crow on that.
At the end of the day, I think this is what's going to happen.
Well, then,
she's sit here.
Okay, what about Angelina Jolie?
Feige is going to sit here and say,
"Okay,
make it right."
Liz, this is some more.
Lawsuit is going to be withdrawn, and the
lawsuit is not going to bring the character back.
No, it's not. Character is dead. She's already been replaced.
She's dead. She's dead.
What do you think Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek commanded for the Eternals? Do you think they got the $20 million?
And we already know that
both arguably much bigger actresses.
Well, Angelina, I don't know that Salma is a much bigger actress than ScarJo.
No, Selma, as far as her career, and her longevity in this industry, yeah.
But not in grosses though.
Oh,
not in grosses. No,
but
ScarJo is a well. Salma Hayek has some international appeal that ScarJo doesn't. ScarJo proved that she tanked Ghost in the Shell, which she yellow-faced anyway. So that was a critically awful move on her part. She never should have taken that role. And Lucy didn't turn her into the superstar that they were hoping. Lucy was supposed to be a franchise. And frankly, I mean, as much as I love the visuals of that director, and I do, his films are not that amazing. And choosing her as the anchor was just. I loved her in Nanny Diaries with Chris Evans, by the way. But that's not a franchise film.
She was great in Eight-Legged Freaks too.
Yeah, but that was Eight-Legged Freaks. I mean, the point is that you have Angelina Jolie. Whether or not the Eternals turns into a tentpole franchise for the MCU, I think is very open to interpretation. But you have her. You've got Brie Larson headlining a movie of an all-female super team. Basically.
Directed by
a woman, and not all female. There's one male Marvel that they're talking about might be in there, but you got Photon / Spectrum / Captain Marvel 1. You've got the real Captain Marvel. You got Ms. Marvel. You got America Chavez. You've got all of these characters that are coming in. Marvel is in a better position than arguably any other studio right now to say, we are not playing the sexism game. Anybody you want to look at, we're employing She-Hulk, own series, Ironheart, an F-list character, own series, doesn't even have a comic book anymore, but she's getting a series in Disney. There is no way anybody can
and racism as to why Ironheart still doesn't have a series.
It was comic book sales. It was comic book sales, but they're giving her a series on D+.
The comic book didn't even finish coming out. No, she was canceled.
Well, it did come out and it didn't sell, and so they can't. It didn't, but lots of things don't finish coming out.
Okay.
I mean,
even to say it's going to be the highest grossing Marvel film out this year. No Way Home still hasn't even come out yet. That's going to blow every other Marvel film out of the water.
It was the first Marvel film. Shang-Chi. I don't know that it's but your point was you tried to say that this was a Me Too moment. It's first of all, Me Too.
I said it was a Me Too moment. I'm saying that this is what is being promoted amongst why
it's not promoted.
Me Too is not pay equity though. Me Too is not pay equity. Me Too is not pay equity, though. So anybody who's promoting it that way, it isn't pay equity. Me Too is sexual assault.
To make it that. People are trying to make it that because they're latching onto it, but that's not what it's going to become.
I met Tarana Burke. I produced a segment with Tarana Burke. It is not about pay equity.
I'm saying, Tom, that the hashtag Me Too movement, we should all know, has been taken over and has enlarged. And she has given that moment to say that when I was out here talking about hashtag Me Too and nobody cared on Twitter and all this other stuff, that this was about this notion. And then it has developed into this workplace issue. Where's our representation?
It's dying, Liz. It's already dying. I figure I saw the Twitter movement. I saw them trying it, and I saw the individuals who were trying to pump it up. But because Disney, righteously so, and this is intelligent on their part, this is why I guess they're Disney. They're not giving any fire to this. They're not giving anything to this, and this is dying out because they are doing a better job in showcasing what they are doing for women, for the LGBT community, and this is not just in front of, this is also behind the scenes. So when you look at what Disney's put out there, it's kind of like, and that's why Disney's now coming out saying like, dude, this is a PR stunt. This is them trying to get a little bit more money than actually is deserved with what we laid out. This is like after the fact, after this is all said and done, now because your character's dead and you know you have no future with the franchise, now you want to start barking. We don't know if that's a smart move.
She's striking after the iron's cold.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, she look.
No, it seems like negotiations went down, and this has been there. They probably had negotiations behind the scene over the last year. She didn't get what she wanted. She didn't get a confirmation about if she's going to ever reappear again.
Not anymore.
Yeah, but Liz, doesn't that seem strange? Liz, doesn't that seem strange that you wait till after the movie drops to start up this whole campaign of I was done wrong? Because of the fact that we have articles that show that these negotiations were taking place, which held the last of the re-release dates. It held it because they were negotiating for this. Disney could easily point back to that and say like, yo, we negotiated. That's why we finally agreed on this release date. We finally all were on the same page.
If you look at a lot of her interviews, to me, when I saw the lawsuit, I was like, oh, this is why you look irritated in many of your interviews. You don't look happy that this movie was coming out.
No, she's probably obligated to do those interviews, and she doesn't want to be doing it.
Well, but look,
a lot of actors are like that.
At the end of the day, the reason there were problems with this movie was not because Disney wasn't behind it. The reason there were problems with this movie is that there was a worldwide pandemic that decimated the entire movie industry, and there was no choice. It was either we could shelve this movie like they shelved New Mutants.
Oh God, that
you can.
Christ.
Well, I'm just saying.
Or you could do a Tenet.
Or you can, or Tenet. Look,
or Tenet.
Tenet was a huge disappointment.
Oh.
F9 was basically saved by international box office. But you look at A Quiet Place Part 2, you talk about this is the highest grossing movie of the year. It's 14 million domestic over A Quiet Place 2.
Well, I think
a movie which absolutely didn't need to be made or released. And this is an MCU film.
Sonic the Hedgehog was the highest grossing film in 2020.
Right.
Sonic the Hedgehog. They had to go back and redigitize Sonic in that film after everybody chewed it apart on the internet.
It's not that bad. Sonic the
Hedgehog. No, it's not. It's pretty good. I can't wait.
Sonic the Hedgehog was fine, but it would not have. But it would not have been disappointing to the audience. Right, it was so disappointing to the audiences that they had to redigitize everything. Look, Sonic made 319 worldwide, which is about where Black Widow is. That's an MCU movie that in any other environment could have been counted on to $800 to $900 million.
I think that what her argument is, and I can understand this. I'm hoping that this is her argument, is that, and Disney may need to reconsider. Like, why couldn't you give it a week or two in the theaters before you dropped it on the Disney Plus app?
No,
times are changing,
and that is a legitimate argument. But guess what? An $80 million gross probably wasn't going to be that much bigger. It might have been $10 or $11 million more for the opening weekend, but it wasn't going to turn it into a $270 million opening. But what you do know is what was in the theaters. You know what the advance ticket sales were, and all those other things, and people had to pay. People did have to pay. It would be one thing if it was like the HBO Max model where it was free at home. And
that's a $30 ticket right there at home.
A $30 ticket at home. So that's not free. People had to make a choice to pay more. Granted, if it was more than one person at home, it would have been less. People had to pay more than they would have to pay a ticket to get to see this movie. And I guess all I'm saying is that she can do whatever she wants. She's an actor. Her people can do whatever they can do. But they will cast Ray Fisher as Black Widower before she is going to be Black Widow again. And I don't know what she's thinking.
I'd watch that movie.
Of course you would.
I still think that at the end of the day, what will happen is contract negotiations are going to change. That if this is going to be the move to the future, we're going to and somebody was going to have to come out and force the hand of a contract negotiation. This lawsuit reminds me, and we go back to Tawala's music days, of Napster. And when eventually artists were like, hey, music industry, because music industries wanted to keep the money to themselves, you're going to have to give us a % of all those people that they download that music for 99 cents. You got to give us, something.
Well, but you know what? The extra note to that is with what happened after Napster turned iTunes. You saw every single major record store in the country go out of business because people stopped wanting to pay top dollar for an album that they weren't sure if they were going to like the whole thing. And they ended up saying, hey, I'm going to go on this digital download site and just download the songs that I want. What ended up happening is you cut out the middleman because of individuals like, who fought for digital, for the digital divide and for all of that. They essentially cut out not only major record stores, but the mom and pops who now are kind of struggling to come back. You know, you've got the Pooh Bah records and so forth, where vinyl is a thing among kids. Cool. I hope that Scarlett Johansson and her team remembers this moment when AMC's and Regal's and every other theater around the country has to shut down because of the fact that Disney now has to say, hey, guess what? We are just going to do deals with producers and directors and actors. We cannot split that kind of money with them and also cut you in to a share and also spend money on marketing and promotion when we have a built-in audience with the app. I hope they remember this moment because it will be on them that the theaters are gone.
But at
mark
the
that
same
shit
token,
down, Johansson
yeah,
team.
but I also think that if artists didn't come out and back in the day, if artists didn't come out and say, "Hey, we want our 2 cents, our half a cent,"
Oh no, guess what they did, Liz?
then the music industry wouldn't
that
get a
eventually
dime,
that didn't work out for them. Eventually, what ended up happening with after Soldier Boy and his ringtone battle and Eminem and his digital battle, what ended up happening is all the labels said, "Sure, got it. We're going to renegotiate contracts, 360 deals all around. We're locking you up for everything, single thing that you do. You will not have a life outside of this. If you guys get paid for farting, we're getting a cut of that stinky ass money." And that's what ended up happening. And guess what? They ended up ultimately regretting it. Label deals start changing. You started getting rid of A&R folks. You started getting lawyers who now negotiate record deals. That's what happened to the industry. When you know what happens behind the scenes, this shit ain't gonna plan out the way they think it is.
And the thing is that points deals are not new.
Yeah,
Alec Guinness and James Earl Jones were offered points deals on Star Wars,
and they took it and they ran to the bank.
James Earl Jones did not, but Alec Guinness did.
Alec Guinness did.
And so these aren't even new. So the point is that the only wrinkle this time is that streaming of movies, day and date streaming of movies, became a thing because of the pandemic. I don't know whose feedback that is. But if we are having a challenge, then maybe this is a good time to sign off because we are right at about an hour. But it is not going to turn out the way I think the lawyers who decided that this was a good flex, I don't think it's going to play out the way that they want or intend. And I think, unfortunately for ScarJo, if she has been caught up, that this is not something that's going to end up working for her.
I still think that they're going to figure it out.
Hopefully.
Because I don't see that at the end of the day, this being a benefit to anybody. I think it needs to be figured out because there's so much more that's left on the table that she can do. And I think that this wrinkle if you can make it work with Gunn, you can iron things out. And I said
they can, but they also don't have to. That's the bad part about this and why it's short-sighted is they actually don't have to, because they did kill the character and they have enough future Black Widows, enough future super spy characters that can take their role. They already have established that Yelena Belova, who is the current, or she was the current Black Widow after, Natasha Romanoff retired or whatever, they can go a whole nother direction. And that's the short-sightedness of this, is not looking at what Disney is planning. If you would have just said, hey, cool, let's negotiate this behind the scenes, fine. By making it public and trying to put egg on Disney's face is where you F up. That's where you just totally fuck up the whole plan.
And she couldn't even do a credible Russian accent.
And there's that. All righty. Look, next week it is going down. The Nerdo Roundtable will be going down on Wednesday with what they are saying is actually MCU canon. This is not just an animated series that's coming out. This isn't like MODOK. This is MCU canon, and it is a direct continuation from Loki. It's almost a Loki spinoff. What If drops on Wednesday. We're going to bring you the heat.
Can we say that this year, when we watch stuff like No Shade, the Suicide Squad or Kong versus Godzilla, doesn't this now make you so much more interested and appreciative of the MCU?
Oh yeah. Oh,
well,
yeah.
the MCU is the best piece of multi-billion-dollar creative enterprise in the history of mankind.
Yeah, you
honestly.
hear that, Martin Scorsese? You hear that? Huh? Hey?
Yeah. What if I want to see is what if the DC EU actually had its shit together? We're never going to see that, unfortunately. Never going to see it. But go ahead, Twala. You were saying for next week.
Next week, what if 7:45? Be there or be forever square. And look, we enjoy having you with us. Enjoy all your comments. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Nerdorama News. Anthony.
And by the way, can I say one more thing?
Okay, yeah. Break it up.
Yeah. There was no need to mention Jungle Cruise.
So that's the reason why
we didn't. You just mentioned it though, so there you go.
No, that's the reason why we didn't talk about it.
I think that's our sign off. Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
Take us out, Anthony.
Good news, everybody.
McBain.
Hand.
Where is my jungle suit?
Don't let the wisdom of age be wasted on you.
Nice. Excelsior.